Welcome to Movie Recap Pro. Rick and Morty first spluttered onto our screens over a decade ago. But if Rick and Morty were released in 2024, some episodes would be deemed far too edgy or even too disturbing for today's audiences to digest. Here's a list of 8 episodes that might be seen as the worst offenders. Rick Potion number 9 is one of the earliest examples of Rick and Morty pushing audiences into deeply uncomfortable territory. In the episode, Morty convinces Rick to make him a love potion to win over his crush, Jessica. However, the potion's effect spreads throughout the school, quickly spiraling out of control. To make matters worse, Rick's attempt to fix things backfires, transforming everyone into grotesque mutant creatures. Rick decides to abandon his own dimension, leading the pair to an alternate universe where they replace alternate versions of themselves. The use of a love potion has come under heavy criticism in recent years. In 2024, audiences are more vocal about the problematic nature of storylines that involve love potions or other forms of forced, manipulated affection, especially when they involve teenagers. If it were written now, Morty's use of a chemical to win over Jessica could easily be viewed through a highly critical lens, and social media backlash would likely erupt over any storyline involving a loss of consent. The episode's darker twist, where Rick and Morty abandon their family to live with alternate versions of themselves, reflects the show's nihilistic tone, but might be perceived as disturbing. The ease with which they discard loved ones might be seen as dehumanizing, especially since Rick's choices directly affect an entire world's safety. This episode would likely require heavy edits today to downplay these intense implications. Autoerotic Assimilation might be one of the strangest but most honest love stories within the show. Rick rekindles a relationship with his ex, Unity. Unity is a hive-mind entity capable of assimilating global populations into one consciousness. As Unity and Rick reconnect, Rick's selfish and hedonistic nature drives Unity into a chaotic state, affecting billions. By the episode's end, Unity leaves, realizing that her relationship with Rick is ultimately self-destructive, and Rick is left contemplating his loneliness in a rare moment of vulnerability. Similar to the themes in Rick Potion number 9, this episode's exploration of autonomy, manipulation, and consent within relationships would be heavily criticized in 2024. While Rick and Morty has always thrived on pushing boundaries, audiences today are more sensitive to media's portrayal of toxic relationships. The fact that Unity has no true freedom or ability to choose without Rick's influence presents a very toxic dynamic. Rick's callous treatment of Unity would likely be seen as making light of abusive tendencies in relationships. Autoerotic Assimilation would probably have to reconsider much of its premise to work for 2024 viewers. The episode's depiction of manipulation and control over another's autonomy would be too charged and inappropriate without a more explicit, responsible narrative approach. Meeseeks and Destroy. Morty is given the opportunity to choose his first adventure. However, it isn't long before things take an extremely dark turn. The episode starts out fun, with Beth and Summer trying out Meeseeks boxes supplied by Rick, and of course, Jerry manages to mess it up. But during Morty's adventure with his grandpa, Morty is nearly assaulted by a king jellybean, the ruler of the medieval fantasy-style village they're adventuring in. Morty's near assault obviously leaves him traumatized and horrified by the experience. The storyline has since drawn criticism for its unsettling content, with some viewers noticing how disturbing it is when they rewatch it. Today's audiences are especially critical of storylines that handle sexual abuse or near abuse insensitively. Morty's experience is treated more as a shocking plot point rather than as a subject for serious exploration. In 2024, an episode that touches on sexual abuse, even briefly, would need a more responsible narrative approach or would risk not airing at all. Fans would likely demand that the episode either handle the incident with greater sensitivity or avoid it altogether. The Wedding Squanchers begins as an intergalactic wedding for Rick's best friend, Bird Person, and turns into a heartbreaking betrayal when the bride, Tammy, reveals herself as an undercover Galactic Federation agent. The scene descends into violent chaos as she shoots Bird Person, leaving viewers stunned. This episode, which ends with the Smith family on the run, showcases the show's brutal and often tragic humor. The episode taps into themes of betrayal, death, and the shock of losing someone suddenly and violently. But what is more likely to cause problems for modern viewers is the fact that Tammy is a high schooler marrying a much older bird person. Age gap stories are already a dangerous subject to approach in any media form other than the most serious. Although Tammy turns out to be an ass-kicking crackshot agent who decimates many of the congregation, it is her relationship with Bird Person that would cause the problems in this early episode. Anatomy Park. Rick shrinks Morty to enter the body of a homeless man, Ruben, where Rick has built a mini theme park. While the episode is packed with dark comedy and Jurassic Park parody, the storyline leans heavily on body horror and a casual disregard for Ruben's humanity. Ruben is treated as a vessel for Rick's experiment rather than as a person, which is dark humor at its most extreme. In 2024, audiences are more sensitive to how media treats marginalized characters. This episode might be accused of dehumanizing homeless individuals, reinforcing harmful stereotypes, and failing to respect the character's inherent worth. Anatomy Park might need a major overhaul to be palatable in today's social climate, with more focus on respecting the humanity of all characters. Pickle Rick centers on Rick's transformation into a pickle to avoid attending family therapy. Although the episode treats us to a series of absurd, chaotic, action-packed, and violent events, the episode can be construed as mocking the concept of mental health assistance. Today, mental health and therapy are approached with more respect in media. Pickle Rick could face criticism for portraying therapy as a waste of time and depicting Rick as a tragic anti-hero who triumphs through violence rather than introspection. Although the episode is pointing more at Rick's flaws and cowardice in the face of mental health, it can easily be misinterpreted. The Ricklantis Mixup, also known as Tales from the Citadel, explores the dark and dystopian life within the Citadel, where different versions of Rick and Morty are trapped in a rigid, oppressive society. The episode is a scathing commentary on systemic corruption, class division, and exploitation, portraying a world where power dynamics are heavily skewed. Though brilliant, modern viewers might see the episode's satire as trivializing serious real-world oppression. Across the globe, people have become far more aware and socially focused in the last 5 years, ever since the dreaded COVID lockdowns and the increasing difficulty of financially surviving have forced us to be more empathetic. The potential for satire to unintentionally reinforce stereotypes or harmful perceptions of marginalized groups means that the Ricklantis Mixup would need to tread carefully to avoid misinterpretation or backlash from audiences feeling that the episode treats systemic issues too lightly. The Heist episode. In this heist parody, Rick assembles a team to execute a series of over-the-top heists in the ultimate passive-aggressive move. Ultimately, he wastes a lot of people's time to destroy Morty's love for the heist genre that Rick despises. Rick's treatment of Morty in this episode reaches a new level of manipulation, as he undermines Morty's enthusiasm purely to prove a point. While this episode is a more lighthearted parody of the heist movies that swamped cinema before Marvel, it might be viewed as unnecessarily cruel in how it treats Morty's ambitions. Rick's toxic behavior in manipulating Morty's choices could be seen as a form of emotional abuse, which audiences today are less inclined to find amusing. And there you have it, 8 episodes of Rick and Morty that might have difficulty being written or broadcast in 2024 without major adjustments. As Rick and Morty continues to push the boundaries of decency with their comedy, it's likely that this list could become ever-changing. What do you think? Are there any episodes that seem more problematic now than they once did? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching Movie Recap Pro. I added punctuation for easier reading and comprehension while preserving the original tone and structure. Let me know if you need anything else.